Chairman Powell has been laying out cyber threats as a key issue for Wall Street for years. And with the Iranian activity, the bombs dropped on Saturday, we're definitely in a heightened environment in terms of what Iran's willing to do. Now, in terms of Wall Street and the threat to banks and the financial sector, they're always on alert. These are platinum security programs that the banks have. But where Iran is going to play is on the psychological, the influence operations, being really loud and taking credit for activity. So where the banks have to focus is, where's there going to be something disruptive, where an actor from Iran can claim that they've had an impact on Wall Street, on the financial sector, and the Iranian government will want to use that to their advantage at home and domestically.
Yeah. How much of this stuff do we never hear about because nobody wants to say openly that they've been attacked or hacked, and nobody wants to take credit for the attack to begin with?
Well, there's a couple pieces to disclosure. The banks in particular have a lot of regulators and are really incented and do a great job about communicating when they're threatened. There's other sectors, I'll give you water, for example, who don't have the same incentive structure to be able to detect and then be able to talk about the cyber attacks that are hitting them. And this is where Iranian activity could get really interesting and threatening over the next few months. Water sector, energy sector, even transportation. Where Iranian cyber actors have focused in the past is getting into the industrial control systems, sort of the tech interface that controls water levels, chlorine, water pumps, that sort of thing.
And planting
and disrupting
bugs
them.
That could be a problem much later, right?
Yeah, even turning them off. In other cases, they'll put up the equivalent of kind of digital graffiti, a note that says, Israel, to take down Israel, this device was made in Israel, Iran is here, really threatening, again, kind of a psychological effect. But different municipalities have had to take down their water systems as a result of this, just in the last couple of years. So,
is this Iran or China or both?
This is Iran in the case we're talking about now. China's got pre-positioned access at a pretty deep level across the energy sector.
What a thought. Pre-positioned access.
You know, Director Wray, the former FBI director, called them sleeper cells. But essentially, they've got cyber access in networks that they could use at a time and place of their choosing. And the thought process for China, who's a real strategic actor here, and it's the Chinese military who's doing this, is use that strategic leverage to change how U.S. political will works. Will China be able to deter the U.S. from coming to Taiwan's aid or another ally in the Asia Pacific? And they're using those cyber accesses, they're lying in wait to use those if they need them.
Very scary. We're talking about a ceasefire with Iran, making a deal with Iran. We're going to sit down at the table next week. The missiles aren't flying, but these threats continue. Shouldn't this be part of a ceasefire agreement or a peace deal with Iran?
Iranian cyber activity has been happening in the last week. Albania has actually been the victim of some of this. They harbor a pro-Iranian group. So the actors here are on it. Now, the question in the next couple weeks, but even months, is what can Iran touch in terms of U.S. targets, U.S. critical infrastructure targets, and be able to tout the impact of that and potentially use that as a way to get more leverage in the ceasefire discussions and other negotiations that are going to be happening.
Amazing. This is exactly the conversation that I thought it might be, Laura, because we learn a lot when we talk to you. And I want to ask you about the debate that's going on surrounding the use of, the dissemination of, the politicization of intelligence in Washington at the moment. You saw the Defense Secretary, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs this morning, trying to stitch together a composite to back up claims that Iran's nuclear program has been obliterated, as the president puts it. We had an initial assessment that was apparently leaked to some news organizations, including the Washington Post, CNN, New York Times, suggesting that we set them back by only months. And I know that the president has been very angry about this in the Pentagon, at least as led by the civilian leadership of the Pentagon, suggesting that we've insulted the dignity of the pilots who flew this incredible mission that I think we all agree was quite impressive and might have revolutionized the way we do this. Talk to us about the process, because we're told it'll take weeks before we really know what happened. You were part of an organization that, in fact, oversaw 18 different agencies. How many are working on this? How long will it take to have a real answer?
putting together a damage assessment, especially when it's complex, is what we're seeing after Saturday.
Yeah.
Multiple targets, multiple different ways to read how that destruction happened against those targets. This is going to take time. And one of the things that folks in the intelligence community are going to be incredibly diligent about is making sure that they're taking a variety of sources. Some of that sourcing will come from allies. Some of that sourcing will come from reports on the ground. It'll come from a myriad of sources.
Yep.
And they need to take that into account to really understand what the damage looks like. So these first preliminary days, it's wild that this is playing out in the public sphere. The debates around how to gauge this damage and how to convey that and how to explain it is where these 18 agencies are going to be having really fruitful discussions and then putting that together for the president in a variety of intelligence products. That's going to be the key work here. And it's tough when you have Pentagon leadership, when you have DOD coming out in saying some of this. But one of the lines that Kane said that I think is worth seizing on is DOD doesn't grade its own homework.
Right.
The intelligence community does the damage assessment. Right. And that's a really key point here. So let the intelligence community really get down to it and understand what's happened.
Well, once again, it is really the civilian leadership that's taking this stand, right? We haven't heard official Pentagon, beginning with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, say exactly what the president has said. I don't want to pull you into a political conversation here, but it is remarkable, and I'm guessing your phone's been blowing up with a lot of folks from the intel community. Remarkable to see this administration, and specifically this president, having denigrated the intelligence community for many years, now turning to it for support to back up this argument.
The intelligence community's strength at its core, and you have so many professionals in there who've really dedicated their time and service to an unbiased approach to the facts. And what they're really going to focus on here is not being politicized and getting straight down to here's what we know has happened, here's what we don't know, and then using what we call confidence language, caveats, a way to explain that room. And political leadership, and it is remarkable to see Trump, so involved in the discussions with intelligence community assessments right now when he wrote them off so much in the first administration. But this is the work. And this is the moment when everybody should really be looking to the intelligence community to understand the picture. And that picture has to inform our actions. If we lose that and politicize that, that's when we're really not going to have a clear understanding of what's going on. And that will not be good for the U.S.
Are these leaks politically motivated when you hear about an initial assessment from a single agency knocking around certain quarters of the news media? Does that bother you?
I can't say. Leaks are always bothersome on classified intelligence, to put it mildly, right? This shouldn't be out there. The question is, can these agencies get the space that they deserve to have the debates internally?
Without me seeing it first.
Right. Yeah. This isn't something that makes any sense. And in fact, it's really antithetical to national security to be having these intelligence debates on the outside. You want to give professionals the space to really bat around the facts, bat around different sources, and get to a conclusion that they agree on.
In our remaining moment here, does this go public when there's a final product, or is this something that we'll only hear about years later?
That's going to be up to the decision makers in the intelligence community on what's releasable and what needs to stay within channels. And a lot of that's about protecting sources. It's about a long-term view on American intelligence and what we preserve and what makes sense to put out publicly. So we'll have to wait and see.
Is there an initial, just to add on to that, an initial reading that's used internally by the Pentagon, for instance, to decide if they need to go back in, hit it again?
There's going to be a variety of intelligence products that are created over time that different policymakers in the Pentagon and elsewhere will rely upon. But this is going to be a really dynamic and important focus across the agencies.